unceremoniously abandoned, the nib thick with dust. She pressed it against the tip of her finger, but no ink blot appeared. Her stomach twisted. She pressed again. The boy behind her shifted his weight, the old wood under him groaning, and Effy put the pen in her mouth and sucked until she tasted the metallic bite of ink. "For saint's sakes," the boy snapped. Hurriedly, she scrawled the address on the back of her hand and dropped the pen into her bag. She tore away from the wall and the poster and the boy before he could do or say anything more. As she walked briskly down the hallway, Effy caught the end of his muttered curse. Heat rose to her cheeks. She reached her studio classroom and sat down in her customary seat, avoiding the gazes of the other students as they shuffled to their places. She stared down instead at the bleeding ink on the back of her hand. The words were starting to blur, as if the address were a spell, one with a tauntingly short lifespan. Cruel magic was the currency of the fair folk, as they appeared in Mitherton's books. She had read them all so many times that the logic of his world was layered over hers, like glossy tracing paper on top of the original. Effy focused on the words, committing them to memory before the ink could run beyond legibility. If she squinted until her eyes watered, she could almost forget the boy's whispered slur. But her mind slipped away from her, running through all the reasons he might have scoffed and sneered at her. 1, she was the only female student at the architecture college. Even if the boy had never so much as glimpsed her in the halls before, certainly he had seen her name on the exam results, and then, later, on the college roster in the lobby. 3 days ago, some anonymous vigilante had taken a pen and turned her last name, Sayer, into something lewd, preserving the last 2 letters. 2, she was the only female student at the architecture college, and she had placed higher than him in the entrance exam. She had scored high enough for the literature college, but they didn't accept women. So she had settled for architecture. Less prestigious, less interesting, and as far as she was concerned, monumentally more difficult. Her mind didn't work in straight lines and right angles. 3, he knew about Master Corbenick. When Effy thought of him now, it was only in small pieces. The gold wristwatch nestled in the dark, thick hair of his arms. The adultness of it had shocked her, like a blow to the belly. Few of the boys at her college, and that's what they were, boys, had such thick arm hair, and even fewer had expensive wristwatches to nestle in it. Effy squeezed her eyes shut, willing the image to vanish. When she opened them again, the chalkboard in front of her looked glassy, like a window at night. She could picture 1,000 blurry, half-seen things behind it. Her studio professor, Master Parry, was running through his usual introduction, only in Argantian. It was a new policy at the university, instituted only at the start of her first term, 6 weeks ago. Officially, it was out of respect for the university's few Argantian students, but unofficially, it was out of a sort of preemptive fear. If Argant won the war, would they impress their language upon all of Lear? Would children grow up shaping its vowel sounds and verbs instead of memorizing Lyrian poetry? It might be a good idea for everyone at the university to have a head start. But even when Master Parry lapsed back into Lyrian, Effy's mind was still turning, like a dog unable to settle itself down to sleep. Master Parry wanted 2 cross-sections finished by the end of class. She had chosen to do a redesign of the Sleeper Museum. It was the city of Caer-Isel's most beloved tourist attraction, as well as the alleged seat of Lyrian magic. There, the 7 storytellers slept in their glass coffins, silently warding Lear against threats, and, according to some, waiting for the country's bleakest moment to rise again and protect their homeland. It was either provincial superstition or gospel truth, depending on who you asked. Ever since Mitherton had been laid to rest, just before the start of her term, tickets had been sold out and lines for the museum wrapped around the block. Effy had tried 3 times to visit, waiting for hours, only to be turned away at the ticket booth. So she had simply had to imagine how the storytellers would look, penciling.